Greetings, Talvad. It's time to go through the Grotmus Calendar Day 5 reveal, which happens to be Admech, and it is quite a potent detachment, I'm not going to lie. The detachment is called the Haloscreed Battle Clade. So let's get into what it does, and we'll also have a look at what maybe we can do to combat such a monstrosity of a detachment. Now, the key thing with these videos that I've been doing is giving you small bits of information so you can prepare yourself and have the confidence to go into these matchups at least knowing some of the tricks of the trade and doing your best to combat their detachment, their rules, and some of the combos that I'm going to run you through today. So let's have a look into the main part of this detachment, which is the Neurospheric Transference. So we will be playing most likely 2,000 points, but Incursion they can choose 1 unit, Strike Force which is 2,000 points, 2 units, and Onslaught for those 3k games is 3. And what they basically do is in the command phase, they select 2 units and they gain the Halo Override keyword. And then they choose between one of 4 abilities. Add 2 to the move characteristics, add 1 to the toughness characteristics, the advance and charge ability, and stealth. Both of the units that they've chosen benefit from one of the abilities, so you can't pick and choose, but there are other ways within the stratagems to allow something to pick another one of these Halo Override benefits. Now, the enhancements are very powerful because one of them, called the Transocular Dyad Wafers, allows a cybernetic datasmith model to have, that is attached to Castellan robots, to have the Doctrina Imperatives ability active for the entire game. So it just has that Doctrina Imperatives. And then there's the Cognitive Reinforcement, which can be taken on any Admech model, so Admech Adeptus Mechanicus model, excluding the Cybernetic Datasmiths. The Conqueror Imperative and the Protector Imperative are both active for the Bearers unit. Now, the other 2, one of them, which is adding 6 inch to the range, could be quite nice on breaches that are 30-inch range, so then suddenly it becomes 36, which then would mean that their rapid fire range is 18 rather than 15. And it can reroll the hazardous test taken for the unit. But the other one, the Inloaded Lethality, is a Tech Priest Dominus or a Tech Priest Manipulus, and they can add 3 to their attacks characteristic of the bearer's melee weapons and add 1 to the damage characteristic of the bearer's melee weapon. So I should have just said add 1 to the damage and add 3 to the attacks. It's a lot easier. So let's have a look at the stratagems. I personally think that in terms of the enhancements, it's going to be the Transocular Dyad Wafers, it's going to be definitely the Cognitive Reinforcement, and probably most likely the Inloaded Lethality. Then we have a look at the stratagems, and they're very good. So Eradication Protocols. It gives the unit, in the shooting phase or the fight phase, until the end of the phase, each time a model in the unit makes attack, reroll wound rolls of 1. If it has the Halo Override keyword, you can just reroll the hit roll of 1 as well. So extra efficiency when it comes to your shooting or combat. Then we've got Target Override. So an Adeptus Mechanicus unit in the shooting phase or the fight phase, it has critical hits on 5+. So this is becoming quite a powerhouse in the game of 40k. Being able to have critical hits on 5+ just means that when you layer in buffs like rerolls to hit, and then you add other special rules like sustained, it just becomes quite obnoxious. Because it becomes overpowered, units become a little bit broken, but this particular combo is going to be used 100% all of the time. You're going to see a unit of breaches that when they're joined by the Manipulus, they basically will have lethal hits, and then it'll be lethal hits on 5+, and then they'll have full rerolls to hit, because what they do is they stand next to a battle line unit, and rather than just rerolling 1s to hit, they reroll everything. So they're just going to fish for those lethal hits. And the guns are pretty good anyway, so expect to see this coming at you and being shot point blank in the face. And just in case that wasn't enough, they can Overwatch on 5s. Yes, it wouldn't work with the crits on 5s in Overwatch, but it's still just a lot of firepower in one combo. Then we've got the Neural Overload. So an Adeptus Mechanicus unit in the movement phase. If your unit is Halo Override, suffer D3 wounds, but select one of the Override abilities until the start of your next command phase. So you can just pick one, put it on something as and when you need it. So kind of do what you want, really. And then we've got Aggressive Impulse. Your movement phase. A Scorpius Dune Rider. You basically can move the transport, get the guys out, and charge, as long as the vehicle has made a normal move. So think our breaches, where our Delphish can move, it can advance, get out and shoot. Well, obviously they can't advance and get out and charge, but they can just move the vehicle, get out and charge. And there's other ways for them to actually give extra movement for other units in vehicles and still declare a charge. Because if you look at their the ability for the nospheric transference, you can just target units that are already embarked in a transport. So nobody else can do that because you can't select units that are in a transport because they're not on the battlefield. But this doesn't state that you can't. So putting units that are like electro priests in transports, potentially going, I want you to advance and charge, and I want to give you +2 move, so they can not really benefit from the +2 move if you're moving the vehicle and getting out in advance. But so what you do, sorry, I've kind of made that really confusing. So you could just go, I want this unit in a transport to advance and charge. So I'm going to get out 3. I'm going to then +2 move as well. And then I'm going to now spend the strat to do the advance and charge. So in that scenario, you give them the Halo override for +2 move, they get out of the vehicle 3, then they'll move 8 if it's movement 6, and then you spend that stratagem to give it advance and charge, because you can obviously advance then as well. So then on average, you're going out of a vehicle 3, you're going to be movement 8, and then your average advance of, say, 3, so that's 11, and you can charge. So you're going 14 inches plus a charge on average outside of a vehicle. And then the other unit, just the vehicle moves. The vehicle could have +2 move. Then the guys get out 3. So vehicle, let's say, moves 12. +2, 14. The guys get out 3, that's 17 plus a charge. So that's 2 units then that can actually be flung at you with just manipulating the movement and the advance and charge. So pretty good. Pretty good. Expect to see some combat jank from Admech. Now, as we're speaking of jank, let's talk about a few other things. So I've already mentioned about the aggressive impulse, but the guided retreat. So if you happen to want to tag stuff up, it can just fall back, shoot, and charge. And if it's a Halo override unit, it can reroll desperate escape tests. But then, just to add to this, the analytical divination. So, with the combo that I explained before, of the fact that they can move a vehicle, get out, charge, then the other unit can get out of a vehicle, add +2 move, and then spend it for advance and charge. Any vehicle of theirs, any transports that's still nearby that unit, so think about maybe the vehicle has moved its +2 move and then charged as well. If you end within 9, when you move in to try and deal with the unit, they can react to move D6. But don't worry, because it's Halo Override unit, it can just go flat 6. So then it can, as long as it's 8.9 away from the transport, it can embark because it's a normal move. So they've got out, killed you, maybe consolidated back towards the objective, and then you move within 9, and the reactive move flat 6 because they're a Halo Override unit, and then they embark in the transport. So lots of tricks, lots of damage, and now let's kind of have a look into their datasheets, because this is just going to confirm what I've said, and you'll see some of the combos that I'm talking about. Okay, so first off, let's mention the actual Admech rule of the Doctriner Imperatives. So the Doctriner Imperatives are 2 things, and they select, at the start of the battle, you can select one of the Doctriner Imperatives below. Until the end of the battle, that Doctriner Imperative is active for your army, and all units from your army that have the Doctriner Imperatives ability gain the relevant ability shown below. So, Protector. They have Heavy for ranged weapons. They can improve the ballistic skill of ranged weapons by 1. And each time a melee attack targets a unit, if it has the battle line keyword, or if it is within 6 inches of one or more friendly Adeptus Mechanicus battle line units, subtract 1 from the hit roll. So, Heavy, extra BS, and subtracting 1 from hit rolls in combat against them. Okay, but then they've got the Conqueror Imperative. So, range weapons, gain the assault keyword, improve the weapon skill of melee weapons by 1, and the same thing about the battle line and or near an Adeptus Mechanicus battle line unit, you can improve the armor penetration characteristic of that attack by 1. So remember I said about the, let me just show you again, the enhancements. The two there, the transocular dyad wafers, you just gain the Doctriner Imperatives ability and gain the Halo override keyword. So until the end of the battle, models in that unit have the Doctriner Imperatives ability and gain the Halo override keyword. They can't do the Nospheric Transference, but you can just pick and choose which one you want for a CP. And then also the enhancement of the Conqueror Imperative and the Protector Imperative are both active for the Bearers unit. So Cataphrone Breaches with a Manipulus with this could just have both of those active all game. So Breaches could have Assault. They can have extra ballistic skill. They could have extra weapon skill, extra AP, extra weapon skill. It's just have all the rules. So what are these breaches in this Manipulus I'm on about? Well, Manipulus I've mentioned before. Lethal hits for the unit, and once per game, the entire unit can have a 4+ invulnerable save until the end of that phase. Shooting, Magna Rail Lance, 1 shot, 7 AP2, damage 3. Combat, 4 attacks, but remember, you could do the enhancement, if he did, to have an extra 3 attacks and extra damage. But really they're going to want to bank into having all the imperatives and as much shooting as possible. So the Cataphrone Breaches. Cataphrone Breaches have the heavy arc rifles. Now, as a data sheet, they're pretty good. They're T7, 3 up save, 6+ invulnerable save, 3 wounds. Okay, so we do have good profiles into them, I'm not going to lie. You know, the Plasma's been flat 3, Riptide's been flat 4. Okay, missiles are damage 2, so they can do work, but mainly looking at your flat 3 damage guns like your Iron Hammerheads, Riptides, and Plasmas are all very, very good into Cataphrone Breaches. Now, the Cataphrone Breaches have a 30-inch range gun, but it's rapid fire 2. It's anti-vehicle 4+, 2 shots each, BS 4, but just assume that they're going to be the extra ballistic skill with the imperatives. And they're going to be strength 8, AP 2, 3 damage. They can reroll hit rolls of a 1, but while they're within 6 inches of battle line units, you can reroll the hit roll instead. So lethal hits, been led by the Manipulus. Spend the stratagem for 1 CP to give them crits on 5s. So they'll be doing between 12 and 24 shots, depending on if they're in rapid fire range. They'll be hitting on 3s, full rerolls to hits, lethal hits on 5s, and their strength 8, AP 2, 3 damage. And they could also have an extra AP, I believe, as well, with one of the Doctriners. If I have a look at the Doctriners. Yeah, makes an attack. If it's within 6 of the battle line units, improve the armor penetration. So they're going to be AP 3, flat 3. Cool. So do the maths. If they do 12 shots, if they're in half range, crits on 5s. So 3 are going to be lethals. Yeah. No, 4 are going to be lethals. Then you're going to have 8 left. They're going to just fish for them. So if they did that, another 2. So that's 6 lethals. And out of those 8 that you've re-rolled, 2 are going to miss. So that's 4 left. So you're going to have 6 lethals and 4 hits. And you could also do the... let me just flip between the other screen. Stratagems was the one for rerolling wounds. Then they can reroll wound rolls of 1. So you'll get 1-1. So you're looking at basically handing them 10 saves at AP 3, damage 3. And then if you were just to quickly kind of like multiply that, if they were in rapid fire range, you're looking at 20 saves, give or take. So that is pretty strong for a unit. And in terms of the points cost, they're 320 points, I believe, for a unit 6. Yep. Cat from Breaches, 320 points for 6. Now, they're also pretty good in combat. 4 attacks. They could do the Hydraulic Claw, 2 attacks, 8, 2, and 3. So it's not like you could just tag them, because they will just chew you up in combat. It's pretty powerful. This unit is going to be a real problem. How can we deal with this unit? Well, like I said, if they wanted to, they could make him T8 with a defensive profile. If they wanted to, they could give him stealth. We can ignore stealth because of our fire knives. Riptides ignore it. Even broadsides can ignore it as well if they take the support systems. And then the plasma fire knives or missile fire knives ignore it innately. And when they are presented, they're going to be at full starting strength. But they can, if they wanted to, choose another imperative, another Halo Override ability, and suffer D3 wounds. And if they killed one model, then they wouldn't be at starting strength. That could be really annoying. But our fire knives hitting into them with strength 8, so they're winning on 3s. But if they did the +1 toughness, it'd be winning on 4s, rerolling 1s. I can definitely see the plasma fire knives popping off in Kyle with the sustain hits too. But I also think one of the most powerful detachments against this Admech army would be Montcar, and I'll get into that in a little bit more detail when I load up TTS. This one's going to be quite longer than the other ones because there's a lot to go through, but just bear with me. So let's have a look at some of the other options. The destroyers, I don't think you're going to... sorry, the Cat from Destroyers, one thing to mention as well, is the... so the Cat from Breaches and then the Cat from Destroyers. The Destroyers with the Plasmas with the rerolling hazardous test could be quite nice. And they can overwatch on 5+. The Plasma guns, the hazardous is 36-inch range, so with the extra 6-inch range enhancement, if they did put that in this unit, 42-inch range, 4 shots, 8, 3, and 2. Maybe go up to AP4. But to be honest with you, I think that the other unit, the Cat from Breaches, is going to be superior. But again, at this unit, overwatching on 5s, it's pretty brutal. So I think before when I mentioned about the overwatching, that was meant for the Cat from Destroyers, not the Breaches. The Breaches do not have the overwatch on 5+, but they'll still overwatch with them because they'll just fish for lethals with full rerolls to hit. And then the Cat from Destroyers are the Plasma variants, but I do think the Breach is going to be superior. So let's have a look at the Cybernetic Datasmith. So what this Datasmith does is it leads the Castellan robots, which haven't been seen for a while, but I think they're now going to come out to play because of this new detachment. The battle protocols, at the start of the battle, if this model is leading a Castellan robot unit, in your command phase, if this model is leading them, you can select one of the protocols below. Add 2 to the attacks. Add 2 to the attacks of ranged weapons, add 2 to the attacks of melee, add 1 to the toughness characteristics of Castellan robots. So their toughness, let me have a look. So you can stack that, I believe, so you'll be having +1 to the toughness with the Aegis protocol, and then you could do the Halo Override for another +1 toughness. And the Castellan robots are toughness 9. So, oh my god. So you could have toughness 11 Castellan robots. Talk about a durable brick. Now, they've got a 2+ save, 7 wounds, 5+ invulnerable save. The ranged weapons, looking at them, they're not too scary, but they've got the Foster Blasters, Twin Linked, ignores cover, and then they've got the Incendiary Combustor. So it's nothing really to worry about in terms of like your big stuff, but like Crisis Suits, Breaches, the Strength 6 AP 1/2 damage is quite nice, but you could go up to AP 2. But they're mainly there for their combat as well. So Strength 12 AP 2/3 damage. They could be AP 3. They could be easily hitting on 3s. And then the Repulsor Grid. Basically, each time a ranged attack is allocated, on an unmodified 6 to save, suffer 1 mortal wound in return, so like deflects them back. So I think these units, you're going to probably not see a big unit of 4, because you can take them in 4, because it's quite pricey. You'll probably see units of 2, just to be a real durable brick. But then the Cybernetic Datasmith model in this unit has a 4+ Feel No Pain, like Robotic Bodyguard. So these are going to be really hard to shift, and if they do take a big unit of 4, then they can just push them up at you. That's 7, 14, 21, 28 wounds at T11 with a 2+, 5+ invulnerable save. It's pretty good, to be fair, and they're going to just clear your screens and just sit on an objective and bully, and they're OC2 each. So this unit's now going to see a bit of light at the table, I think. Now, in terms of the rest of the units, I'm not going to go through the Restalkers because the typical Admech build has always been like mass bodies right now, loads and loads and loads of bodies. I'm just going to load up the field with so much OC, and I'm going to threaten you with the Scarian Restalkers, charge you, tie you up, hit you, and then have all my battle line score. That's a very common build of Admech recently. The Doom Crawlers, though, you'll see this with the unit that likes to hop in, hop out. And when they hop out of this transport, the fire support, in your shooting phase, after this model is shot, select one enemy unit that it scored a hit against. Until the end of the phase, disembark units. When it makes an attack that targets that enemy unit, you can reroll the wound roll. So it's until the end of the phase, so it's just for shooting, so it doesn't apply for combat. But you could just still have a Skitarii battle line unit drop out, shoot you, jump back in, full rerolls to wound. And then if it's Halo Override, you can do loads of janky stuff with this, but I think what's going to be used now is the Scorpius Dune Riders are going to be used to transport the following. So the Electro Priests. So you've got Electro Priests, for 10 models it's 130 points, so it's pretty much the same points as our Kroot, unless they've got even cheaper. Let me just have a look. Admech. Electro Priests. So they've gone up slightly. The full Gright ones are 70 points for 5, 140 for 10, and then the Copscalari, the other Electro Priests are like Kroot price, so 65 and 130. So let's have a look at what the two different Electro Priests do. So the Corpuscari Electro Priests are sustain hits 2. So 3 attacks each. So if you're taking unit 10, that's 30 attacks. Sustain hits 2. That's shooting wise, so they can be hit on 3s. Strength 5, and obviously with it being shooting, this unit can just drop out, shoot, have full rerolls to wound because the transporter shot you, and then they charge in, and they've still got sustain hits 2. No AP, but they could be in the right doctrine. They could have AP 1, and they're just basically going to go full rerolls to wound from shooting, and then go in combat with sustain hits 2. And it says in your shooting phase, after this unit is shot, select one enemy unit excluding monsters or vehicles. That enemy unit is shot, and it subtract 2 from its move characteristic and 2 from its advance and charge rolls. So it can slow other armies down. It can slow our movement, but it's excluding vehicles and monsters. So if it wanted to, it could shoot like one guy and one of your breaches and make them slower. Then the Electro Priest can be joined by Dominuses or the Manipulus. So what you could do is the Dominus. If the Dominus joins them, they go from a 5+ feel no pain to a 4+ feel no pain. So they do have 5+ invulnerable saves. They could be on a 5+ invulnerable save, 4+ feel no pain. They've only got 1 wound each, but it's still obnoxious. And it can be joined by the Manipulus as well. So if you really wanted to, if you go back to the Manipulus, you could give them lethal hits. So they could have lethal and sustain. And then if you do the stratagem for crits on 5s, then you're doing critical hits. Oh, you're going to do lethal hits and sustain hits too on 5s. That's gross. That's actually really gross. So you might see that combo of the Corpse of Kali, Electro Priest, whatever they're called. The Electro Priest with like hands, gauntlets, with lethals and sustain hits too on 5s. Just a boatload of strength 5 attacks. Could be AP1 or just drown you with the amount of shots. And then what you're going to see is them in the transports that I mentioned before, where the transports can basically, they can get +2 move, they can get out of the vehicle, advance, and then spend the stratagem to override, advance, and charge, and then the other unit can just move a vehicle and then get out and charge. So you can see now how Admech lists are going to change. They're going to have more of this in there, especially in this detachment. Cool. Right, so if they do go for the lethals on 5s and the sustain hits of 5s, they won't have a 4+ feel no pain, they'll have a 5+ feel no pain as standard. Okay. Great. And then the Fulgurite Electro Priests, they just basically have, while a character's leading the unit, they subtract 1 from the wound, but they have devastating wounds, slightly better profiles at 6, 1, and 2. They have 2 attacks each, so basically they're going to have 20 attacks at hitting on 3s, but obviously they could easily hit on 2s, I believe. If we go back to their imperative. So, yeah, weapon skill increased by 1, so they could be suddenly hitting on 2s. With 20 attacks, so 17 will hit. Then dev wounds. You're looking at 2 to 3 dev wounds, but they could do lethals if they're led, but then the lethals are not triggering the dev wounds. So you're looking at 6 dev wounds potentially straight away, and then you're going to have like between, well, if it hits on 2s, that's 14, then it'll be wounding on crisis suits on 3s, so you're looking at 6, 12, 18, 5, 10, 15, so you're looking at 9 to 10 wounds at AP1, so let's say you fail 4 of them, so that's 8 damage plus the 6 dev wounds, that's 14, so it kills 2. That could actually wipe out your crisis team. So, yeah. I can definitely see these being scary now. And then the other stuff that you'll see is the Ironstorm Ballistari. It's their last chickens, you know, the one with the last cannons on there. But they got sustain hits 1, so they could do the stratagem. So they could have sustain hits on 5+s. So you're going to have lots of high strength, potential sustained, and they can obviously fall back, shoot, advance, shoot, reroll desperate tests. They can do the Halo override thing. God, there's a lot of words in Admech. This is very challenging to kind of go through. They just have all the rules in the game. Yeah, so they basically have +2 to their movements. They become movement 12. They could even do +1 toughness, pushing them to toughness 8. So yeah, it's really, really powerful stuff, guys. Like, I'm not lying. This is kind of scary, just even reading through it. So let's now go on to the TTS demonstration. I think I should just read out the Dragoons. Dragoons are sustain hits 2, combat anti-walker 2+, lance. So 4 attacks, 7, 2, and 2. Okay, pretty good. They could go into, say, your Riptides and do some damage. They could do sustain hits 2 on 5s, I believe, because the ability doesn't stipulate just the shooting or fight phase, so they can do both. So, pretty powerful stuff, right? Lots of rules to go through. So I just want to kind of focus a little bit now for the next 5-10 minutes just on TTS, just showing you some of the profiles that you probably want to factor in going against them. Certain units that we can take and maybe focus on a particular detachment, which I think is going to be quite strong with the way that the meta is shaping up around us. So let me just do the normal and update and change my OBS recording studio. Okay, so this unit here, I am just going to demonstrate. If you, for example, left the Riptide out there, we said that this Cataphron Breach unit is going to be in rapid fire range, so it's going to be 24 shots. Hitting on 3s, full rerolls. All that is lethals. So they'll be wounding on 5s, but rerolling 1s. Because of the stratagem. Cool. I've got 14 saves to make of 4-ups. I've taken 18 damage. Riptide dead. That's how powerful they are. They can just one-shot Riptide. Done. Okay. So, the key thing is here, they've got a 30-inch range. So your units like Riptides need to be available ready to you for when you want to shoot them. Because when you shoot back, you're going to have to give the breachers something to kill to bait them out into the open. They're not just going to walk out to the center and let you shoot them with your entire army. They're going to only send these forward when they need to. So your Riptide, if it was, say, Kion or Montcar, it's still going to be really powerful. So assuming it's all going to be guided by stealth suits. Aggressively through the dice there. Okay. 2 lethals. 2 hits. Maybe you do pop the dev wounds because they pop their 4-up invuln. Rerolling wounds. So you've got 4-ups to make. You've killed 2 breachers. Then you've got the missile drones hitting on 4s because you ignore their stealth if they've managed to do that. And then strength 7. It depends on if they did the +1 toughness, but let's just assume that they didn't, okay? Because they can't do it all. Or let's assume that they did. Either way, it doesn't matter. Okay, so you've killed 2 breachers just by 1 Riptide, and that's in Montcar. If you were to apply the Kion, and I didn't even get any of my dev wounds off. I Kion, I didn't get any sustained. But anyway, we're going to focus on Montcar here. So, Riptides, good into them. Now, another profile that's very good is the Plasma Fire Knife unit. But the problem is here, is if you moved out, like, say, a Plasma Fire Knife unit, or you drop them in, okay, to deep strike on them, they are going to overwatch. And let me just show you. 4 rerolls to hit, and it's lethals. I got 5 AP3s. Yes, I've got an enforcer, so maybe 2s, let's just say. Okay. So, 2 crash suits are dead. Your efficiency's gone. So, you can't rely on just dropping this unit in the open because they'll just get shot. What you can do is you can find angles, so you need to really focus on where the opponent has positioned his unit. So, for example, I've just randomly moved this unit here, yeah? What I can do is I can line up my unit just to shoot that character. So then maybe he only gets 1 or 2, or maybe even none. But I've got to measure my ranges, you see. Okay, so 18-inch range. Okay, so let's just assume that I place this guy here, there, and let's just say he gets 1. He gets 1 to Overwatch. He's not going to go for it. If he goes with, let's say, 2, okay, there'll be 6 shots. 2 lethals. I've got cover. I've got AOC. Cool. I take 3 damage. Crysuit doesn't die. And then what you can do is when you guide against them, in Montcar, for example, you're going to be... You can easily just push the AP. So you could shoot with these 2 units. He's going to have an invuln. So, okay, he's going to pop that once per game invuln. And let's just say that they've killed something, they've got 4 rerolls to hit against them, because the Montcar strat has that. So I'm going to be rerolling everything anyway with the Fine Eyes, because I'm going to shoot with them first. Okay. So then I've got 6 of them hit. And there is an enhancement where basically if you guide with something, you can get sustained. That is something I'm playing around with at the moment, and I think could be really good with a missile fire knife unit, guiding from range to actually give them sustain and lethals. But if we just go with the raw roll that I've just done here, and then these will be wounding on, let's say, 4s, because they've done the -1 toughness. Right, that was quite lucky, but these are invuns. So I've killed 3 of the Cataphragm breaches just by the crisis suits. Then I've got the commander who's got 3 plasma rifles. I get to re-roll. I'm just going to fish for them because I hit on 2s because I want lethals. So 2 lethals and then winning on a 4, re-rolling 1. No. So 2 invuns. So I've killed 5 breaches. And then he's got his cyclic, which I'm going to overcharge, but I'm going to again fish for lethals. Nothing. 4s, re-rolling 1s. So 1. Save, but then I've got my gun drones as well from the crisis. So that was a miss. 4 re-rolls. One of them under there was not part of the roll. So I've got 3 lethals. And then it'll be 5s, twin linked. So you've got 4 saves at AP 1 because I've done the extra AP. So that's 1 down to 1 wound. And then obviously the Riptide's going to finish them off. So just a Fire Knife Plasma team and a Riptide with the Montcar lethals and also doing the full rerolls to hit strat on this Cataphragm Breach unit when they've killed something, because they are going to kill something, has just removed that threat straight away. So that's one way to deal with it. The other things that I think are going to be really important in this matchup is going to be Piranhas. They are still quite cheap for what they do. 180 points is 3 Piranhas. And their ability to just scout move 9. And then move 14. So 9 goes to here. Then goes to 4. Then move 14 without the advance. Because remember I've talked to you before about their ability to do lots of tricks with combat. With the Dune Riders. If, for example, they're deploying their Dune Riders on each flank with all of those Electro Priests in there to threaten your expansion objective, move, get out, charge, and then obviously potentially advance as well, it wouldn't be a shock to me if you didn't see deployment like a tank on each flank. So how are you going to get to these tanks? And the best way I can kind of explain to you from something that we've got in our arsenal of tools is fast moving, high damage, cheap units. And that's where the Piranhas are. It doesn't have to be a unit of 3. It could just be single Piranhas if you're wanting just to tag something up and stop it from doing its movement shenanigans. But if you're wanting to potentially kill them, then, you know, assuming that obviously you've scout moved at 9, okay, and usually you'll deploy your Piranhas in like kind of a V formation. You can be really cheeky by having your Piranhas like that, because it fits nicely. 9 inches goes to like here. Move 14. You could get this Piranha here. Something like that. Again, I'm just going to be quite loose with this because you get what I'm trying to do. You then shoot. Or you could go this way. Either way, you're going to be like here. So you're going to go 21 inches. Because move 14 plus scout move 9, 23 inches. So you're going to be like here. Okay. Your Pathfinders are set up downfield. Maybe they've got out here, guided down there. You could obviously do lots of things. You could just fire your Seeker Missiles if you want. 6 Seeker Missiles. Rerolling 1s from stealth. 2 lethals. Strength 14. There you go. Okay. 5d6 go through. You're gone. So that's pop to transport. Yeah. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to charge that one over there. 5 inches. Within 6. Cool. So what I've basically done is I've destroyed a tank, charged the other. No tricks for you. Or you can't at least move that vehicle. Yeah, it could fall back, but it needs a CP to spend to fall back, shoot. And then you can do the same over here with another unit of piranhas. So you can really push the aggressive game straight away. And then in terms of dealing with these Castellan robots at T11, once again, the toughness 11, because the T9 plus 1 toughness from the character that's leading them, and then they've also got the Halo Override stratagem to make them an extra toughness as well, so T11. So all the other shots that we're doing are going to be winning on 5s, but our Seeker missiles, AP3, so they're on a 5+ invulnerable save. They pass 2 of them. You got 7 wounds each. First one, 2 damage. Dead. 5 damage. So that's 1 dead. And 1 down to 2. Then I'm going to shoot my gun drones. For what it's worth. 2, 4, 6, 8, 12. 12 shots. This is probably not going to do anything, but we'll give it a shot. Lethals might help. Sixes. Twin linked. Yeah, this is definitely not going to kill one. Cool. And then the 3 fusions. Lethal. Strength 9. 5s. 1s. Stealth. Nope. Failed. Cool. So I've killed 2 robots with just... And that, straight away, is... What was it? 300... How many points? Let me just double check something. The Castellan robots... Where are they? Okay, so 4 models is 360 points, and 2 is 180. So your 3 piranhas have just killed 2 big robots with the Seeker missiles. You're not going to charge them because they will smash up in combat. But what I'm saying is that the best way to deal with these Dune Riders and these Castellan robots are piranhas. And the other good thing is, with the Battle Shock test that you make them take, if they fail it, because the Admech aren't very good on their leadership, you can stop them from doing defensive strats. Other things that I think are going to be really useful for range against Admech is the Ion Hammerheads, especially in Montcar, because they work perfectly with doing the extra strats for full rerolls to hit and extra AP. So just to demonstrate, even though I demonstrated the Fire Knives and the Riptide, 2 Ion Hammerheads shooting into the Castellan robot. So the first unit, now obviously they're going to do stealth at this point, yeah? Or they could do stealth. So let's say they do stealth and they do the +1 toughness, okay? But they take D3 wounds for it, so they 2 wounds, 1's down to 1 wound. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot my SMS for the first one, and clear all these dice because they're getting a bit messy. I'm going to do +1 AP strat for both of these, targeting them. So SMS, 2 lethals. Sorry, I'll take away 2 of those because they were 3s. Strength 5, be 5s to wound. AP 1s. Kills the 1 guy, and 1's on 2 wounds. Obviously, he's going to do his 4-up invuln. And then I've got the D6 +3 blast. It's 4 +3 +1 for blast. Now, +1 -1, so I'm back to hitting on 4s. Rerolling 1s. 1 lethal. Rerolling 1s, and I'm gonna keep my free reroll. Okay. We saved it. 2 seekers. Both. I'm gonna do my free reroll. Nope. Passed it. Not going very well, is it? And I did forget, actually. I'm gonna have to start that again. My apologies. So it was 8 shots. I don't play much Monk card, see, so I forgot about the 4 rerolls to hit. 4 rerolls to hit. That's better. That feels more like it. 3 lethals. Strength 8. It's toughness 8 now. So you got 5 invuns. 3 dead. 1, 2, 3. 2 seekers. 1 lethal. 2 invuns. Another 1 dead. And then the other hammerhead just cleans up. So, long range firepower. Iron hammerheads, riptides, plasma fire knives, all good into the breaches. Piranhas good into the Dune Riders, all of their vehicles. And then once they've shot and killed something, they can charge things. Right. Remembering, guys, that the charging stuff, just to kind of show you. Let's just remove all of this here. Let's just say your piranhas are the target that you're trying to hide and be like, you know what? I'm safe here. Because a normal charge range, you'd go, okay, you can move, get out 3, move 6, that's 9, and then you've got 12. So that'll be 21-inch threat range. Now, if they added +2 to the movement of the vehicle, let me just double check that the vehicle's movement is 12. Movement 10. So it's called the vehicles. I'm looking at the wrong one. Dune Rider. Sorry, movement 12. It is. My apologies. Movement 12. Just going to do the +2 movement. So let's just assume that it has to pivot. It goes 4. And then you've got... Let's just say it's movement. That's taken 4. So 6. It's got 8 left. Yeah. And you get out 3. So you'd have to stay out of here to be charged. But if, for example, it had a unit, say, tucked in here, what could happen is the guys get out 3. So the this unit is here within 3. +2 move. So they're going 8. And then they need a 7-inch charge. Because then they spend the override and they get into you. So key thing is, remove their transports early, stop their board presence that they can get and the pressure they can put on you with the Electro Priests. Hopefully this has been really useful for you. I appreciate that this one was longer than the normal episodes I've been doing. But like I said, this one's quite an in-depth detachment. So for me, just remember that breaches are going to be disgusting. The Techno Priests, or what they call the Electro Priests, are going to be able to get up close and personal with you. And then they're also going to be able to shoot you with crits on 5s with the Ballistari or the Breaches. And the robots are going to be toughness 11 and very durable. So Montcar is going to be a great detachment towards the Admech. The lethals are going to help you against the high toughness stuff, and obviously the stratagem suite is really good for Montcar. So anyway, thanks very much for your time, and I'll give you an update on the next detachments later. Thank you very much. Take care.